iPhone 11, I was wrong. What is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. First of all, happy Valentine's Day to you all. I love you all for all of the support and just all the viewership you continue to give to this channel. I couldn't be more grateful, more appreciative of that. And make sure that you tell the person that you love them each and every day if you can. And if you're not into the whole Valentine's Day thing with, you know, significant others and stuff like that, just make sure you tell yourself you love yourself. It's a really important thing to have self-love. It really helps you to embody the strength you need to keep it moving in life. So anyway, back to the video. I was really pushing the iPhone 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max extremely hard in terms of, you know, trying to convince you earlier last year that these were the best of the best. And while I stand by my recommendations and that these are excellent phones, I was wrong in not pushing the 11 a little bit harder than I did. Now, stepping outside of my own personal taste and loving these more, you know, specced out beasts like the 11 Pro Max, if you step into the shoes of the average person, this one right here, after 4.5 months of using it, I was going to title it that, but I just want to talk about where I was wrong with this phone instead of just titling it long-term experience. We're going to begin with the display. Now, the display is something that I've always said is better on the 11 Pro Max, and it seems that it's objectively so to a lot of people. It's got the OLED panel. It's a little bit, you know, brighter. It's the better panel from an objective specification standpoint. However, I find that doesn't really translate to real world use. What I mean by that is that you don't really pick up on this stuff unless you are comparing the phones side by side. Now, the iPhone 11 gets plenty bright enough, and while the resolution is not quite as high, it's not something that I really even see on the day-to-day. Text is plenty sharp enough for most people, and I really just don't have an issue with the display for the iPhone 11 after using it for quite some time. Now, again, I personally still prefer OLED at nighttime, but in terms of that actual brightness, that's a little bit better for the 11 Pro Max. It's just something that I don't think about too often when using iPhone 11, is that I'm craving more brightness, because I'm really not. And when reading through news articles and stuff like that, I'm just like in the content. I'm not even thinking about, oh, how sharp is this display? I'm just consuming the content and I'm good to go. So really, it doesn't really matter too much. And I think that being at $699, this display actually is pretty nice as well. The viewing angles are fantastic on here. And being that I use a MacBook Pro as well, it looks almost identical seeing that it's LCD technology. The notch is across all iPhones, and that's starting to get a little bit old. I will admit that. But, you know, at the same time, you don't really notice that these bezels are that much thicker in the day-to-day, and you don't really notice that it's an inferior display until you start looking at it in the dark and you look at them side by side. And even then, some people might have a hard time understanding the differences. Now, the next thing I love about the iPhone 11, and I didn't mention too much, and I wish I would have pushed a little bit more in my earlier videos when this phone first launched, was the size of this phone. The balance is great, at least in my hands. I think it's going to be great in a lot of people's hands, because while it's not, you know, a tiny phone, it's not a super large phone either. It's pretty manageable size, I think. And even if you have smaller hands, you know, this doesn't push you all the way to a monster phone like 11 Pro Max or, you know, an iPhone 8 Plus, for example. This is a pretty nice balance, and I could see why a lot of people choose this as well. It just fits in the hand really nicely. While yes, some people might not be able to reach all the way to the top, reachability can save the day here for the iPhone 11 for sure. The next thing is speed. Now, I never really said anything bad about the iPhone 11 when it comes to speed. I've always been on top of it with that, saying that it's a very fast phone, and it's remained that way. But why this is important now is that if you're looking for an iPhone right now and you think you got to get, you know, the 11 Pro Max to have a Boss A13 CPU or Boss speed, you don't. I mean, the iPhone 11 is just as fast, and it's kind of strange because you would think that you got to pay $1,000 or more to get this type of CPU, and with Apple iPhone 11, you don't. So Apple really has a true value on their hand here, especially considering Samsung raising the price points of their phones, not introducing an upgrade to the S10e. The iPhone 11 now looks like an even better value. So especially in comparison to the competition, this A13 And 4 GB of RAM, while it is small RAM, you don't need the extra RAM because iOS is not optimized for loading up 64 apps on one screen at one time, popping them all over the place. So you're never really gonna need that or desire that with iOS, so you don't really care about the RAM, or you're not going to care at all about the RAM. You're just going to notice how snappy and fast your iPhone 11 is and how smooth it is for not even having a 120 hertz or 90 hertz display. Now, talking about the camera, I was wrong in really pushing that telephoto. I barely ever use a telephoto on the 11 Pro Max. I'm always using the wide angle though, and I'm always using the standard camera because the standard camera gives you excellent results, some of the best in the industry on that main lens right there. And then if you do go into the ultra wide angle here, then you have a very fun shot. Now, the video quality for the iPhone 11 is also superb. It could do 4K 60. It does have a lot of those pro features. And so, you don't have to get the 11 Pro or Pro Max to have that pro grade camera setup. So this is a great pro grade phone camera setup on a budget right here, iPhone 11. So for that reason, it's still an excellent value here in iPhone 11. And I think I was a little bit wrong about pushing the telephoto. I don't think that's something everyone's gonna need. Now this next one, I know you guys have heard me say it a lot. The stainless steel. Yes, it is a nicer material. It's a harder material. It's actually more durable as well. But who really cares about this when Apple puts out cases? You can get third-party cases. People buy cases for their phones all day, every day, protecting their investments. This is kind of similar to, when people buy watches. It reminds me of those people that are going to buy the higher priced watch with the stronger brushed stainless steel, just a better water resistance, all that stuff. But at the same time, the average person is just going to go ahead and buy a watch that's maybe $200 or $300 cheaper, does the same thing, does reduce a little bit in that harder material. A year later, both people are still wearing the watch, both watches are still ticking, and they both serve the same function. If you really care about the detail, you like the way that stainless steel looks, and it gives it that heft that feels like no other phone, then I do think that the 11 might not please you as much as the stainless steel. So you gotta know yourself there. But for me, this iPhone 11 still feels solid. Next up is battery life. Now I was really pushing the point that you gotta go with the 11 Pro Max to get the best battery life, and experiencing both of these, switching my SIM out and using them week after week, these right here are pretty far off. The 11 Pro Max gives a healthy amount more battery life. But here's the thing. When I say healthy amount more, I mean this phone is already stretching into second day territory. This one can actually make it through the second day. So that's pretty good for both of them. Most phones you gotta charge during the day. So going with the iPhone 11 and saving yourself like $400 to $500, maybe even more dollars on this phone is huge, considering the difference in battery life for me is about 6 hours. Like you can wake up in the morning on one day and then stretch into that second day. By afternoon, mid-afternoon, you might have to charge this. Whereas with the 11 Pro Max, you could probably make it till 8, 9 p.m. where then you'll need to charge that phone. Now storage, you can see I've already used more than half, and I still don't like that this has 64 gigs. I'm not gonna go back on that statement. However, all you have to do is pay $50 more to get the 128 gig. Just do it, it's well worth it. You might run out of storage here for this device, but on the whole, the storage hasn't been a huge problem for me, but if it was my only phone, it probably would be. And audio performance, Bluetooth connections, charging, stuff like that. Yeah, the charging is faster on iPhone 11 Pro, but simply just buy a fast charger, problem solved. This does support fast charging. Wireless charging works well. They're pretty much the same phones with a few, upgrades to the iPhone 11 Pro. We've known this for a while, but as a user of both devices, I gotta say that I was wrong in thinking that the iPhone 11 was pretty inferior compared to the iPhone 11 Pro Max. It's just kind of that initial, when you first see these two, the 11 Pro Max with its green color, it does stand out, but after using both of them for a while, they're so similar that the iPhone 11 stands out as one of the best values you can still buy here in 2020. And it's going to remain so at least until the iPhone 9 comes out. We'll see how that compares, and later this year when the upgrades do come. So if you haven't bought an iPhone 11 now and you're looking for one, I think even with these new Galaxies, this just makes this even cheaper looking compared to like the Galaxy S20. This is still a great option here. Yes, those new phones are 5G, but remember this, 5G is still early. This 5G is not that strong just yet, and it's not available in all areas. So keep that in mind when you're being blasted with the marketing of 5G. Anyway, guys, thumbs up if you enjoyed this. Are you buying an iPhone 11? Are you waiting to see how it compares to the upcoming iPhone 9? And yes, I will be covering the Z Flip and the Galaxy S20s. I'm just not covering them until they arrive in the studio. So any questions, comments, concerns, drop them down below. Nick here helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well and peace.